One of the biggest records was broken just now, and that's me hitting 9 subscribers. Let's go. Thank you to you all. I love you all. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the AMJ channel. It's such a pleasure, such an honor to have you back here. It's currently 4:17 a.m. and I just tried to record this video, and I realized my mic was unplugged. Very professional over here at the AMJ channel. But UFC 330 just happened. Barn burner of prelims cards. I will say that. People really to associate name value with good fights, because I knew this fight card was gonna be a banger, especially the prelims, not the co-main event or the main event. I knew exactly what was gonna happen. If you saw anything different, then you're an idiot. I'm just be so for real with you right now. But I'm gonna get into that a little bit. With as much hate as this card's gotten, I don't think this was a horrible card. Anyways, let's get into the actual fights with Islam Makhachev breaking Anderson Silva's all-time record of 17 win streak, getting a 17 win streak against Edie Machado. And I can say a lot about this fight. You can say about how Islam had the most obvious game plan of all time, and people are mad at him for it. Ian Gary doesn't get enough hate. He does get a lot of hate, but he doesn't get enough hate for this fight in particular because he also did nothing. You're trying to counterpunch a wrestler. Well, what kind of came out of that? BST level IQ over here. But this is too technical. If I am an idiot. I am a larper. I could go on for hours about this fight, and I might make a separate video about this fight, low key. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that Islam. I just like being broken, and Islam getting the 17 fight win streak is one of the most greatest moments of UFC. There's never been happened before. I don't think this will ever happen again, at least for a long time. And with Islam still being relatively not that old, I think he had another one or two more wins. I'm not even kidding. Before at least he lost, and some people are less sold on Islam now. He doesn't get that big of a fan base now because of the whole JDM and now this fight. People have a bit of sour taste in their mouth about wrestlers, but I'm still pretty high on Makhachev. In the welterweight division, I was saying that he still has some trouble with Michael Morales, even Carlos Pratas. I think he'll just execute the same exact game plan as nearly every single one of his title fights. And if you think differently, then please watch any of his fights before you say anything, please. You'll see that if you saw anything different, if you saw that Islam would try to stay in the pocket with someone who has way better striking than him, then I don't even know what to say to you. Anyways, next up we got Mackenzie Dern versus Julian Robertson, and it was the most. It was another grass is green kind of fight where I was like, Julian Robertson is not the number one contender. She does not deserve the title fight. Mackenzie Dern doesn't even deserve to have the belt. This is just a paper straw. This is just such a paper fight, because the fact that McKinney didn't even got the title is kind of crazy. I think that once Zhang Wei Li stops being a K-pop idol, that she'll come back and get the belt back easily. McKinney Dern is not on the level of Zhang Wei Li, nor will she be versus Fatima Khan. I know I'll be glazing her a bunch, but I think Fatima Khan can go up in the rankings very high. She'll suplex Mackenzie Dern. Foros, we just fought last week. I'm very high on her. She's because amazing striking on both of these girls. And while their jiu-jitsu is very high level and their wrestling is pretty entertaining, and I definitely did not sleep during the fourth round. I won't think this is a barn burner. I would say this is not just normal decision. And if it's not differently, that something crazy would happen. Come on, man, watch UFC, watch a bit more. Anyways, we got Jalen Turner versus Fernandez. Okay, Fernandez, as much as he hyped up, apparently during the walkout, BJ Penn and GSP sent over their alien to suck out all the chromosomes because in the first few seconds, Fernandez would try the sloppiest spinning back fist of all time, and Jaden Turner would just easily clip him, you know. And Jaden Turner is someone who I don't see as that violent, you know. I don't see him as like quite a finisher. He was until the King Green fight, where it does amazing that that fight ever happened. You know, the fact that like um Bobby heard that the referee was so bad that it traumatized Turner more than it did Bobby Green, okay, or King Green, my bad. You know, I think that's the first time that ever happened. That and then he went on to those 4 or 3 fights, in 3, I think, pretty sure it was losing to Moicano. Very sad, you know, very sad losing to Moicano. But I think he's back generally because like in this fight he actually went after the finish. I think he realized that he doesn't have to be nice in the cage. And I'm really thinking he's got to be a dark horse in the lightweight division. I know that's kind of crazy to say right now, but I think that once he gets a ranked fight, that he will be able to rise. That he will be able to show that he's like one of the top guys and a dark horse in the lightweight division. Fernandez, I can't say much about him. I've never seen one of the film. I'm such an Harper. Anyways, next up, we got man, they're Dude Malik versus Dustin Stoltzov. Where this is actually one of the best fights on this card, to be honest. Crazy striking, crazy grappling exchanges that I think that were better than more entertaining at least than the main event. Abdul Malik took a page out of Khalil Roundtree's book with his perfect Muay Thai, which was pretty amazing, you know, during this whole fight. Um, where he did like control most of the striking at the beginning. Don't get the numbers confused here, because after, but in the third round, pretty sure it was in the second round. My bad. Stoltzov would just power punch. Pretty sure it was an uppercut left, if I'm remembering it right, but it might have been like a left hand. But what I'm saying is that Stoltzov has some crazy power, and as much as I don't want to call these people prospects because I don't know how old they are, I think that they are pretty dangerous at middleweight, especially like I don't think Abdul Malik is that like will like be that bad, you know, with his losses. Is what I'm saying. I think he'll still be able to find some success if he can control the wrestling, can or at least get some good like anti grappling in. You know, I'm still very sold on this guy. And Sultov, I think he'll get a ranked opponent very soon. You know, he's riding a very high win rate. Showed some crazy or some crazy power and some crazy grappling in this fight. I did not watch this fight. I'll be honest with you. Anyways, next up we got Ethan Barbosa and S versus Esteban Rivovic. It's very sad, you know. The fact that Dana White got unfrozen for a permanent cryostasis chamber and went gambling with the Nug boys and then got the call. It was like, should we put Ethan Barbosa against this guy who's a power puncher? And he laughed and then like said, yeah. Okay, there you got Khalil Roundtree with his demonic ass and Alex Pereira was Freemason trainer. That's true, by the way. He looked that up. Um, to rise Barbosa from the graves to get the absolute shit beat out of him. You know, almost got his left eye popped out of his socket. What's wrong? What's up with that? You know, I don't think that's it's. I don't think that added anything that Barbosa also took some of his training camp in Turkey. Obviously, with his new hair. And I was thinking was today about to cry in this fight. Okay, I don't know why they let him go to the second round. I don't know why. As corner got to be like trying to CTE max to the most. But you know, well, as Barbosa is a legend in the game. You know, I recognize you. Um, and he's been in sport way too long to be honest. Been in so many wars. Hats off hat goes off to Edson Barbosa. Please show him some respect. Retirement fight did not go the way you wanted to. I think it's very sad. And Rivovic, I absolutely hate Rivovic. I'm losing my voice. But um Rivovic I'm pissed up by Respecty, and I think if you get pissed up by Respecty, then like you're not going that far in the rankings. You got fat Edson Barbosa, bro. You're not that big of a fight. I'm not that sold on you. Anyways, the next fight, which I'm pretty sure was Fisher prelim. Yo Alvarez lost to Chitty Bang Bang. I forgot what his name is, but Chitty um won the decision where like I think Yo Alvarez might be the first person to be Chinny to the chromosome because One jab from Chitty, and I think Yo Alvarez just forgot that he can wrestle. He absolutely forgot that he has a grappling background. Just forgot that that he was literally supposed to be like this grappling versus striker combo. Because he did not try a single takedown this entire fight. The only person he tried to take down was Chitty, where he got reversed. Um, but the rest of the fight, Chitty would just like piece him up on the feet. And just cruise to easy decision. Like, that's like, what are you doing? Yo, that might be like the stupidest fight I've ever seen. Literally. It was, Yo Alvarez, he might have a BST level game plan. I think that maybe he had a future mini crayons. Um, but I'm not sold on any of these fighters. Yo Alvarez should go to PFL. Chitty should just be fetching under prospect. I'm not sold on any of these fighters. This was not. This was like the. And for that to be the featured prelim, really spoke to what the main event and the main card was gonna be. I think that Yo Alvarez just. I can't say that much about this fight. Anyways, next up, I can say a lot about this fight: Charles Johnson versus Eduardo Chaplin. Now, I picked Charles Johnson to win this. Okay, when it was the other guy, but after this fight, I knew that Charles Johnson would win. But the thing is that the Charles Johnson is a very hard guy to pick because he has one of the most suspect chins, and having like even a suspect chin at flyweight makes you like kind of a worse or in a bad position, I'll say, because where are you gonna go? You can't move up to where there's more power punchers, and you also can't move down at all. Not that would help anything. Well, with this fight, Charles Johnson would have one of the weirdest fights. Okay, first of all, they would need to take points from Chaplin because okay, first of all, he eye poked him. He gave him the Ian Gary versus Bilal special, the 10-piece fingers in his eye. And then first of all, they didn't get a point for taking away from that. It would take another foul where Chaplin need Charles Johnson on the ground for them to actually take a point. Agree, refing guys. There's definitely not a refing problem in the UFC. Anyways, after the point was taken away in the second round, Chaplin was dominating the fight for most of it, and literally almost finished and almost knocked out Charles Johnson. But instead of trying to finish the fight, instead of trying to go for after the finish, he would oral farm for a few seconds, and then those few seconds, literally I don't know how, would give Charles Johnson like breathing time to somehow get up, and then. Third round. If someone goes to third round, okay, because Chaplin apparently had the worst cardio. I know there was like a 4-day notice thing, but Chaplin might genuinely have one of the worst cardios because he would get tired. And in the third round, Charles Johnson would push the pressure, almost get dropped again, but then clip Chaplin where he was able to get back control and sink in a rear naked choke, or not rear naked choke. What I'm saying, he gets back control, bait out like a switch, where Chaplin would just where Johnson would get the first ever Scottish Twister in the UFC. Pretty sure that's a crazy event to get fouled, dropped, and then winning by Scottish Twister is one of the craziest like lines I've ever said. And the thing is that Wallace Chapman's a very good fighter. To be honest, I think this is another case of Charles Johnson investing in Bitcoin in 2005 and then buying an NFT in 2020. You know what I'm saying? There's no way because I think that Chapman stops trying to aura farm. He was trying the whole like awesome gimmick. I know what I'm saying, but like the whole gimmick of like or farming. It does not work for him. Charles Johnson mugged him. Oh my god, they not hair mugged him. People talk about Magny being cockroach Magny, whatever bedtime MMA says. But I think Charles Johnson's an underrated cockroach maxer. Anyways, next fight we got Dante Johnson versus Eric McCormick. Where Dante Johnson, I think I'm very sold on him on this guy. Okay, Dante Johnson, from heavyweight all the way down to middleweight, but still carried most of the power, and that shows in this fight. Eric, he would launch Eric McCormick with like a right hand, and then followed up with a very necessary ground and pound, where he would where he would be mad at the ref for not stopping him in time, so he would elbow him in the face when he was trying to get up, knocking out the referee. I don't think he did, but he like rocked him for a little bit. But I'm very sold on this guy, okay, because he has the power of a heavyweight. I will say that he kept most of his power, but he's still very fast at middleweight. You know, and he's been talking about going down to welterweight. I don't think that'd be a good cup for him. I think that at middleweight it should be his home. Dante Johnson just looks a bit too big for welterweight, and I think that might like to play, especially with the weight cut. And McCormick, I don't know much about McCormick. I'll be fully honest with you. He looks sadder in that fight. In this photo, he kind of looks sad at me for knocking him out. Like, bro, I didn't do that to you, bro. Um, I really saw Dante Johnson. I really think that he could be a dark horse in main divisions. Even he's been talking about moving to different divisions. I don't think that's a good idea at all. Because I don't think it's a good idea for any fighter to like move throughout divisions, like throughout the career. And especially if it's not gonna be like linear. He's talking about going down to welterweight, then going back to up to middleweight, and then going back up to 205. I don't think that'll be good for him. But only time will tell. I see him going far though. I'm very sold on him. On to Trayshawn Gore beating Vicente Luque being in that position. I did not see this as a 27-30. I think the Luque won around. But Trayshawn Gore, he does kind of look like a guy who went to a war with and won a split decision with Down syndrome. Does he look like that? Yes. But and will he also talk like that because he got his front tooth knocked out? Yes. But I feel like people street chart oh my goodness, Gore as like this kind of like journeyman. I think they still a very good fighter. I think the move up to middleweight was very good. He looks fuller. He looks faster, or faster for middleweight at least. And Vincent Luque trying to follow him. I think he just did not fit the middleweight category. He just looked kind of slow. He already hit the Brazilian 10. Um, this is very sad for him. He's a crazy vet, Vincente Luque, just to lose to Trey Gore. And it's kind of speaks to the Ultimate Fighter, like having no name value now. With Trey Gore being on, pretty sure it was early prelims, fighting Vicente Luque, winning pretty unanimously, but not being a barn burner. I can say more about this. I cannot say more about this fight. This is a very boring fight, I'll be honest. Anyways, moving on to a very exciting fight with Rafael Tobias versus Lucas Fernando. Now, Rafael Tobias' game plan going into this, as sources told me, was to or farm in the intro and then do absolutely nothing. Because Lucas Fernando would piece him up everywhere. Would just outstrike him, land the knee in the first round. Was the first round? Yeah, it was the first round. I think demolish Rafael Tobias. I'm very sold on Lucas Fernando. I don't know how old he is to call him like a prospect, but also people call him John Pork a prospect, and he's like 34. So I just call Fernando a prospect. Where I think that the light heavyweight division is so shallow right now that I think he could honestly get a top 15 fight off of this fight. I'm not even kidding. Maybe one more fight will do it for him. But I'm really sold on this guy. He has great kickboxing background. I think he would get some good anti grappling in there too. Wasn't really shown in this fight, but he can, if he can develop good anti grappling, I think he'll be able to rise through the rankings pretty quickly. And Rafael Tobias, I don't know, man. I think he just stopped doing the whole like scary gimmick. Doesn't really work. Rafael whenever he lost in the first round. Um, but I'm very sold on Lucas Fernando. He comes from great kickboxing in the background. Made this fight fun. And I can't wait to see more from him. Anyways, next up we got the cockroach master himself, Neil Magny, beating Ramirez. And this is a case of a vet just knowing the game plan. I will say that he made the first 2 rounds kind of boring. Or in the first round and a half, kind of boring because so Neil Magny would just get taken down and then just lay on his back, hooking the leg. Okay, freaking forming like the bomb leg. You know what I'm saying? Like in half guard, which sucks because this that's one of the like that's one of the, like thing that I think is why people hate grappling so much is because of that kind of stalling technique. People need to hate people more on bottom because like, your job is to get up, is not to just like survive. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Everybody who tried that, and tried to submit him like, well, no times, because he kept on doing that. But then Neil Magny was like, "Oh yeah, I have to win the fight," and then got up and just rocked Ramirez on top. I don't know how. It was one of the weirdest. Like Ramirez has one of the worst chins okay I've seen. But new people need to talk kind of Neil Magny. Okay, he has some underrated gynos as well. You know, people talk about Manuel Cap, Steven Asplin, but I think oh my goodness, Neil Magny has some underrated ones. Anyways, gyno tier that's coming soon. Anyways, finally we got the first ever AI fight in the UFC. You know, UFC been pushing AI, and it's the first AI video or fight they've ever done. Because Orobai just like absolutely sloppy in the striking department. You know, he's a very good prospect. I'm so sold on him. I'm not counting him out at all. Well, I think that if he gets better striking, you know, because Jeremiah Wells, first of all, his striking was also sloppy, so absolute haymakers in there while getting taken down. Um, and I think if Orobai stuck to that, stopped like going like straight back, like really straight backwards, and stop trying to engage in the striking, try to like just open them up to get to the takedown. They could have won this very easily, but no, he just wanted to stand up and bang with him. I think that Orobai, if he just survived the round, they would have won this fight easily. Jeremiah Wells, um, congratulations on your first AI victory. I'm kidding. But I do honestly think that I think Jeremiah Wells could get a tough indie fight very soon. He has a very good like story behind them. And I'm very excited to see him. You know, he is a crazy power puncher. I think if he gets his anti grappling bit up, that could be a problem for a little bit. I don't see him being in the sport for too long. Orobai, he'll bounce back. We believe in our girl Orobai. But yeah, at the end of the card, a very good card overall if you put in everything considered. The main cards kind of put them down. The sacrifice of Anthony Barbosa kind of puts it down. Well, overall, I give this like a 7.8 out of 10 card. Um, but if you like card breakdowns like this, please like, subscribe, comment, anything you like. And thank you all for 9 subscribers. I'll see y'all next time. Um, bye bye.